Diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
NBC News Radio, I'm Tom Roberts. The man once known as America's Dad is being sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. 81-year-old Bill Cosby learned his fate in a Norristown, Pennsylvania courtroom for drugging and sexually assaulting a woman at his home in 2004. And outside the courthouse, former model Janice Dickinson says justice was served for Andrea Constand.
She was a virgin. She collapsed in court. She was absolutely victorious today.
Bill Cosby's publicist says Cosby's trial was racist and accuses the women of making money off of accusing black men. Outside the courthouse, publicist Andrew Wyatt added, Jesus was also persecuted and we saw what happened to him. President Trump is accusing Democrats of playing a con game with sexual misconduct allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. The FBI and other agencies are continuing their search for a 6-year-old autistic boy who vanished from a park in Gastonia, North Carolina. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
The song you are listening to has been passed down from one generation to another from our ancestors, whose call to teach and preserve our native culture is carried on today. We invite you and your family to join us in celebrating this legacy at California Native American Day on Friday, September 28th at 6 p.m. on the campus of Cal State San Bernardino. Enjoy an evening under the stars with California Indian people and experience traditional Native food, music, and the arts. This free family event is brought to you by the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians in Cal State San Bernardino. We look forward to seeing you.
About 1 in 8 women in the United States will develop breast cancer over the course of their life. But there is hope, and that hope is people. FightingForTheTatas.org is a breast cancer organization that is doing just that.
Wait a second. Did you just say tatas?
Why, yes, we are fighting for the tatas, and we're celebrating a new California Awareness Day just for inflammatory breast cancer. Mark your calendars for October 6th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. all day Saturday at Rialto City Park as people all in our state come together to fight against breast cancer. There will be a health fair, a decorated bra contest, silent auction, food, kids zone, family fun, DJs, live entertainment, education complete with rides, crafts, clowns, food, and dancers all rolled into one for 2 of the greatest things on earth, all to save the tatas. For more info, call 909-820-1206 or go to fightingforthetatas.org. That's fighting4tatas.org. You can also find them on Facebook or by Googling Fighting for the Tatas. Join us on October 6th at Rialto City Park. Success Partner presents the all-new Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market, located on the corner of County Line Road and California Street in the city of Yucaipa. This all-new neighborhood farmers market is open from 8 a.m. to noon on most Saturdays and carries some of the freshest produce in the Inland Empire. The Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market now open on most Saturdays at 13669 California Street in Yucaipa. 13669 California Street in Yucaipa. More information at 909-222-9293. That number again is 909-222-9293 or email successpartner@live.com. The all-new Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market, now open on most Saturdays in Yucaipa. Presented by Success Partner.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side, where the birds and the bees survive. Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Smart Health Talk radio show. Yes, I'm your host, Elaine McFadden, and if you're a first-time listener, I hope you're going to stick with us because we've got a great guest joining us today, along with a tribute to Kavanaugh and a lot of other important information that could impact your health and your life and the health and life of other people that you love and care about. And that's what we're all about here, saving lives and helping people be healthy and happy. And I hope that if you listen to this show for the first time, or if you're a return listener, that you got the word that all of our podcasts are up on iHeartRadio. For those of you that already have the app on your phone or computer, you can just search Smart Health Talk and you'll find our podcast there. We also have several years of podcasts because we're a 10-year broadcast, and those are on the KCAA radio website. And those of you that like to watch video, and maybe you're just sitting in your car with nothing to do, you can go to the KCAA radio website and you can tune in with us live and join me here in the studio. And we're hopefully our guest, Carrie Gillum, who is the author of Whitewash, which is a book on the Monsanto poison papers. And why should you care about that? Well, their products are on pretty much most everything that's sold in a supermarket if it's not organic. And I think most people out there, that's the majority of what they're eating. Now, if I had my way, everything would be organic and we wouldn't even have to worry about anything because that would just be the normal way to grow food. And why would I even justify that? How could everyone's out there going, oh yeah, right, Elaine, you know, the most expensive food out there. You just expect that to be the norm. Well, it turns out that Dr. Jonathan Lundgren, who's been a past guest on our show, and we have lots of information on our website, smarthealthtalk.com, he actually said that farmers that transition to sustainable organic farming increase their profits by 76%. Wow. Hey, sustainable agriculture, I wonder if those people need a $50 billion bailout. I mean, isn't that what the president and our Senate and Congress just gave farmers because of these tariffs are going to hurt them? Okay, I'm not some expert economic person. I am not an expert on farming, but something I can tell you is, first of all, Dr. Lundgren, who is an expert, said that the Midwest, that used to be the home of hundreds of different crops, is now the home to like 3. And what are those? Oh, those are Monsanto, like GMO crops. The big ones are soy and cotton. And this $50 bailout is going to the GMO farmers. The rest of the farmers, I doubt that they're getting anything, okay? And so we're doing a little experiment here. We've already put $50 billion to help these farmers. And why is it? Because all of our bets for products to export have been put on GMOs. All of our bets are on that. And that is wrong in so many ways. Not just because of the position that we have now been put in, where I'm talking about this because I am very concerned about these farmers. You know, when we start losing farmland, it then becomes development. Development land, which, you know, that's what's happening in our area at least. Maybe some areas are not, they're so rural that they're not, they're not desirable for that, but I guarantee that this is happening a lot, especially if these areas are within an urban area. So we're losing a lot of farms, and those farms that are in the urban area could actually be key to our national security, to our health, to reducing disease, saving billions of dollars in healthcare costs. Because guess what? When you eat organic, fresh, that's the best. And you can get that right farmer direct. We cut out the distributor, the broker, the retail markup. That's 3 people that take a cut on top of the farmer. The farmer gets hardly anything. When you go shop at the grocery store, the farmer is making pittance compared to all the other people that ride on their back. The broker, the distributor, and the retailer. Okay? And I got a really good reason for you to just say, screw that supermarket produce and go farmer direct, which you go to eatlocalgrown.com or localharvest.org, and you just put in your zip code. They'll tell you all the farmers and farms and farmers markets in your area. And trust me, that's a treasure, because that is the food that has the most life, the most potential for the nutrition that you need to prevent disease. That food is your key to that ticket. But guess what? Right now, you got to fight for it. You got to go a little bit out of your way, but I bet the price is going to be either comparable or less. And then you're keeping your money in your community. You're helping a local family keep their farm and sustain their business and their family, which is a real good feeling. Great feeling inside when you do that. You'd be surprised. And you may even look forward to seeing that farmer and their family's faces, because you're going to come to love them, because they bring you this great stuff. It tastes so good, and you start feeling good. So this is the goal that we should be shooting for, because it's a win-win for everybody. A win-win because you're getting, no pesticides on your food, which are the cause of birth defects and all kinds of diseases. And a jury in California decided it causes cancer. Okay, and awarded Dwayne Johnson $289 million. And Dr. Benbrook was on our show. That's a great interview. We also, this whole, and we think, this stuff is going to be, we just going to do this. Oh, excuse me, got a note here. Okay. We have Carrie Gillum on the phone. She can't Skype in, unfortunately, but that's okay, because we're happy to have her on the phone. And she's a busy mom, and she actually made time out of her mom duties to come and join us on the show. And we really want to thank you for that, Carrie, for being here for us, because she's got some important information about the Monsanto trial that I was just talking about. And this trial happened in California. This was, just within the past couple of months that all this is going on. But the thing is, we got more trials on the way. There's like 8,000 pending, okay, in all different states around the country besides California. But we got hundreds here in California too, okay? But this is important information because, like I said, this jury just decided this product that's on all this food and products like you're feeding your kids, General Mills cereal, just tested super high for this very chemical Roundup that maybe you're spraying around your house. Tested super high in breakfast cereals for kids. Okay? This is why I want your attention. I want you to stay with us. I want you to hear out Carrie and what she has to say, because this is like life-changing information, people. This could actually save your life. It could save the life of someone you love, because like I said, we know this causes cancer. We have research to prove it. We have a jury that decided that when they heard everything from all these different scientists, they decided that. Your peers, okay? All right, let's get Carrie on the phone and stay with us, everyone, and let's hear what she has to say. Carrie. Hello.
Hello.
Are you there?
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I didn't have my headphones on. I gotta have my headphones on to hear you. Okay, well, Carrie Gillum, author, Whitewashed Everyone. Give us the lowdown on what's going on with this whole historical Monsanto trial as we're moving forward, because we know that Monsanto never goes down easy. They go down kicking and screaming and to the very end, and we pretty much expected that. So what are they up to?
Right. Well, this Johnson trial, as you said, was pretty historic. Obviously, the jury came back with a $289 million verdict. $250 million of that was punitive damages. They really felt that Monsanto had been negligent and malicious in knowing about all of the risks that were associated with this, all of the science that shows potential harm associated with its glyphosate-based herbicides, and failing to warn consumers and failing to warn users. And they really looked at not only the science, but Monsanto's internal records, Monsanto's own internal emails and communications that really, that this company didn't work to protect consumers, didn't say, gosh, we see all of this science out there that looks very, alarming about our product, and we better really dig in and give consumers a word of caution. But they saw was the opposite, where Monsanto said, we want to suppress this, we want to discredit these scientists, we want to do everything we can to protect our product. And that resonated with them, and they awarded this giant verdict. Now, Monsanto has, of course, appealed. They filed an appeal just very recently with the trial judge, asking her to order either a new trial or to set aside the verdict, reduce the amount of damages, or in some way offer them some relief. So we will, see what she does on that regard. But as you said, there are many, many other cases pending. There's one right now in Alameda County in Superior Court, California, where it's an elderly man and woman, husband and wife, who both have non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The woman has brain cancer, and they're in their 70s, and they're asking the judge, to give them a trial by December. Now, Monsanto's opposing that, so we don't know what'll happen. There's another man who's scheduled now to go to trial in St. Louis in February, first week of February. And there are several cases in both the federal court and then in, other courts in California. They're all kind of starting to stack up for 2019. It's going to be a really busy year for those lawyers, that's for sure.
Well, how do you feel about the whole thing? Do you feel that everything is progressing in a way that this is the right way to go for the victims and for, the world and all of us watching and eating these products all the time that have this chemical? I
certainly, as a journalist who's been reporting and writing on this stuff for 20 years, it is somewhat rewarding to see people really paying attention. Of course, I was a lone voice in the wilderness, I guess, for many years, writing about this odd chemical named glyphosate. And people say, what is it? How do you pronounce it? Who cares?
They say it wrong all the time.
And, now, of course, people around the world are aware that there are certainly risks that come along with all of the rewards that Monsanto and the chemical industry have been promoting for so many years. And people are starting to pay more attention to pesticide residues in our foods. And that's something, right now in the news, right now we have this battle going on over this insecticide called chlorpyrifos. You've heard me talk about that before. It's such a good example of how science evolves. Years ago, our regulators and our lawmakers said, it's safe in your food, it's safe in your drinking water, don't worry about it, it's an insecticide. But even these small trace amounts in your food, on your fruits and veggies, will be fine. But the science has evolved that we know it's not fine. And the science is so definitive now about how harmful this chemical is that our own EPA scientists have said there are no safe levels anymore. We can't say any amount of this is safe in our drinking water and our food. And a court has ordered the Trump administration to ban it. The Obama administration had planned to ban it. It was on its way towards being taken out of our food system. And now the Trump administration is digging in its heels and saying, by golly, no. Dow Chemical wants it to stay on the market, and we're going to do everything we can to keep it on our food, even though at the very same time we can't say it's safe. So people really do need to start paying attention to these residue issues and concerns and how they might be implicated in human health problems.
Well, I think and do the math too, Carrie, because I had this global economic expert on that had actually dug in and studied the economic value of atrazine and using it compared to like how much did it help increase our yields, which was like 4%. How is that benefiting us compared to the damage that it's doing and the amount that it's going to take to clean up the damage, or the value that you could put on that damage, which some of it, I don't even think you could put a value because it's irreplaceable. But he said that the way the math came out, it's ridiculous. It doesn't benefit us financially in any way. The 4% is nothing. It is not significant, and yet we're causing all this damage and risk using it. So what do you say about that response from the Trump administration, where they're pretty much, in my mind, putting the farmers and their needs over our children's brain, the health of our children's brain, and whether they get autism or not, and their IQ level?
Yeah, I mean, our national toxicology program actually made a similar sort of, argument or addressed this a couple of years ago in one of their reports. And, they were making the case that you have to look at the economic impact of all of these health problems that are associated with pesticides and other environmental contaminants. We tend to want to look at the economic value on an immediate basis, to farmers or to chemical companies or, that sort of thing. But what is the cost in lost IQ points? What is the cost in, medical, for people who are undergoing cancer treatments? What is the cost in lost, productivity of the workforce for people who are so sickened that they can't work? Birth defects and, as you said, autism and things like that.
Disability for the rest of their life.
Right. These are all things that are known to have associations to exposures to pesticides and other environmental contaminants, yet we don't seem to be working very hard, to address those issues, even though the science, is pretty well proven the connections. And that's what some of our leading scientists in the United States are telling us right now. And we just need to pay more attention, I think.
Well, and I'd like to propose this to you, because I started thinking about, like for disability, which is a huge chunk of money being paid out. Like for myself, there was kind of this disconnect that I didn't really associate disability with mental health. And when we're talking about this particular pesticide, can you tell people about how it works? Because isn't it attacking our brain, our neurons?
Chlorpyrifos?
Yes.
Is this? Yeah. Chlorpyrifos has been tied to particularly neurodevelopmental damage in young developing brains in children, both young children and before they're born, whose mothers might be exposed and they're in utero. So, yeah, I mean it's shown to have particularly damaging effects on brain development.
And then that can later lead to other mental and behavioral problems that then require therapy and drugs and disability.
Right. I mean, this is what the researchers have shown, that you get into attention deficit problems and autism problems and things like that. So, there are a lot of ramifications to these sorts of things that we don't think about.
Well, and you just mentioned productivity. Okay, if your child has autism, how is that affecting the productivity that you're able to contribute and work? Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it must be a very major disruption in people able to go to work and contribute, productivity. So, you look at all these things and you just think, gosh, we're just like injecting something that is causing chaos. And it's, how is it benefiting us is just what I keep asking. And I just wish we could get the American people to be asking these questions. What do you see that do you see any kind of a pattern as far as a trigger that really seems to turn the light on for people to see just how bad allowing the use of these pesticides are?
I think the Johnson verdict really, certainly was one trigger. There are many, anytime there's something in the news or something that happens. But, since this verdict, this August 10th verdict, you've seen more cities and different localities, kind of say, hey, maybe we should, ban this, or we should restrict this in some way. Santa Rosa, California, the city council, I think it was on August 21st, they moved to ban glyphosate herbicides in public spaces, in their parks in different areas. Davis, California, I know they're looking to hold a public forum on these issues in December. And of course, many cities and towns and states were already looking at these issues beforehand. It's just kind of a snowball effect. As more information comes out, more people are looking to do something about it.
Yeah. Do you mind, Carrie? I wanna play for you Dr. Nathan Donnelly from the Center for Biological Diversity, and he came on our show. It's only a couple of minutes, but he explained the threat to what you were just talking about. Cities that are trying to take action to make their communities safer and are passing, these laws within their cities and communities to make them safer. And there's now action being done at the federal level with the Farm Bill to make it so that they pass a law that cancels out all of these local laws that are being passed. So is that okay? Do you mind?
Oh, sure. Of course.
Yeah, okay. We're going to play Dr. Nathan Donnelly, and this man is, he's one of our top scientists in the country, so we should be listening. But our Farm Bill, this is 5 years of the future for our agriculture. And I just feel like we're just failing with, support of biofuels instead of organic. I mean, and then I don't know if this is something that you're privy on, but, how we're spending the Farm Bill and how we're like gambling our money here and our future. What do you think about that? I mean, is that something that you look at, the Farm Bill, and how we're spending all this money?
The Farm Bill is a disaster. I hope, I pray that it does not pass in its current condition. I mean, just on the pesticides realm, this bill, as it's written right now, would basically have federal law preempt state and local ordinances on pesticides, so that cities like Irvine and some of these other cities would not be able to enact pesticide bans above and beyond the federal regulations. This would exempt direct spraying of pesticides into water without having to get a permit, including sources of drinking water. This would allow pesticides to be approved without having to do Endangered Species Act consultation. So you basically approve pesticides without analyzing how they affect endangered species. So it's basically a workaround of the Endangered Species Act for pesticides. So real bad stuff is in there. And this is, all industry driven. They want this stuff. They want no regulations. They want to be able to sell and use their chemicals in any way they see fit. And it's ultimately, it's an absolute disaster. And, we've got a lot of allies in Congress and a lot of groups working against this. So hopefully we can at least, at the very least, mitigate some of this disaster.
Well, you say that this is going to stop like cities like Irvine enacting their own pesticide policy that says that people within that city have to abide by the city's rules related to pesticides. So they see, the pesticide industry obviously sees this trend happening, because I know there's been action on cities regarding farming and using GMOs within their their areas, particular areas as well, county or city. So, the pesticide industry sees this and they want to take away our freedom to be able to pass these laws, basically.
Yeah, interestingly, this is all being pushed by the Republicans, who are supposedly for states' rights. But a lot of the provisions here actually prevent states from going above and beyond what the feds do, which you'd think would be in direct conflict with their ideology. But apparently, if they are getting paid to have a certain ideology, then, that's all out the window.
Yeah, that's okay. Were you able to hear that, Carrie? Carrie?
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to hear? Were you able to hear the?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, have you had any kind of, contact with this this legislation in the Farm Bill to stop us from being able to pass these local laws?
I mean, we're all just watching it, of course. It is very significant. It'd be a preemptive move, obviously, to preempt, as Nathan was explaining, cities and localities' efforts to rein in pesticide use. It seems ironic that, the Republican platform is pretty much states' rights and keep the federal government out of your business and, that kind of thing. But unless it comes to something like protecting corporate profits and products, and then it's all about the federal government telling you what to do or not to do. But anyway, I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to pass before the deadline, the congressional end of the fiscal year here. So there's still
there's still
time
hope.
and discussions and negotiations going on over this.
Well, also, a lot can be done between now and then if we want to stop this. And I think the big one is vote. Everyone get out there and vote so we can get some people that will actually take this seriously. Because I look at it, I read something about how we're actually borrowing the planet from our children. And I feel really passionate about that because I want to leave all these beautiful things that I've had a chance to see, animals and birds and all these things that exist right now. And so many things are on the borderline. I don't think we realize how many things are endangered, and it could very easily be gone forever. And when we make these decisions, they're having such a huge impact. I mean, when you wrote your book Whitewash, was the enormity of the whole thing, was that kind of like a wow moment for you?
It really was. I mean, putting everything together, research I'd done for 20 years on impacts, pesticides, glyphosate and others, on the soil and on the water, on human health, on pollinator health, the marketing of it, the secretive strategies to kind of hide the science and manipulate the science, and then all of these people with these cancers. Like, it just, when you put it all together, it really is eye-opening and a pretty profound, sort of lesson, I guess, that we've lost the lessons of Rachel Carson, and we need to sort of get ourselves back together and start paying attention to what we're doing to the planet.
Yeah, hit the reset button, and we can do that. And that's what's so exciting. Although Dr. Benbrook, he did say that he's really worried about the farmers that have been the GMO farmers. He thinks that they're going to be in big trouble. And with this tariff situation, like I was talking about earlier in the show, where it's pretty much we bet our agricultural system on GMOs. And the people that are getting the bailout and $50 billion bailout that was just given to farmers because of these tariffs are hurting them, is because these are GMO crops that we're going to export. And I don't know, I just see where they could buy from somewhere else. They don't really necessarily need us. I've been in business, and I was out selling Nature's Path organic cereal to schools and all these people, and in the food service business. And when you come along with a cereal like Nature's Path organic cereal, the distributor, the broker, the retail guy, none of them actually need you. They really don't. They're fine without you. They can go along. They're making money. They don't really see you because so many products fail. They don't see where you're going to bring any extra money to them. So, it's really easy to just get rid of it. The better choice. And we really have to support a better food system. I was proposing earlier that people really, I've learned so much about the chain of food from the field to even getting to the retail store. And with fresh produce and grains and these other things, there's like fumigation that happens along the way. And so by the time, it leaves the farm, it actually goes through additional treatments of pesticides added to the product. And these are some of the worst pesticides of all, like methyl bromide, which is an organic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't understand and don't know about the food system that are really certainly not very appetizing, and I've written about that. That's why, I think it's important that people, again, understand, what they're getting, what they're buying. They, read, they become informed, and they make choices that, they feel are healthy and good for themselves and their families. And you just can't do that if you don't have the opinion, So that's what I'm trying to do, is report on these issues as best I can.
Well, I know you're asked to speak all around the world, and what are you getting from other countries? What is their concerns when they ask you questions?
Well, certainly, people are people. We all eat. We all have kids, and we hopefully want our kids to be healthy and have good lives. So I think all of those kind of personal sort of questions and priorities and concerns are pretty similar, no matter where you are in the world. I was kind of surprised to talk with people overseas in the Netherlands, in Germany, and France after the Johnson verdict. And, they really said the ideas and the attitudes over there are that jurors really never can be trusted to give a very sound verdict. It's judges who are considered the experts, and they really rely on an expert like a judge to weigh in on a trial. So they weren't too swayed. At least a lot of the folks I talked to, they weren't too swayed.
But the other trial, Carrie, that was before that with the other judge that took several months. I mean, he really heard a lot of testimony. It was because of that trial that the Johnson trial was even able to move forward. So that was strictly a judge that heard all the testimony.
Well, I think you're talking about the federal MDL.
Yes,
Judge Chhabria.
Yes.
Yeah, and that actually wasn't a trial. That was simply a hearing for the judge to hear all of the different scientific evidence and listen to the scientific experts the plaintiffs, want to rely on in terms of bringing their cases forward. And you're right. He listened to it all, and he said, well, it looks like you have enough to go forward. So there will actually be some federal trials now starting up in 2019.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, what Dr. Benbrook said, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, sorry. What I was going to say was the Johnson trial really was independent of that, and didn't rely on that judge in any way. And it did have different experts. Some of them are the same, but some of them are different. As you said, Chuck Benbrook was an expert in the Johnson trial, for instance, and he'll be acting as an expert in several of these other trials as well.
Well, when I asked him, what do you think, what part of your testimony that you think really impacted the jury the most, he said that it was he thought it was a chart that he had that showed the use of Roundup glyphosate, and how the use had increased just in the past few years to such a huge extent that seemed to really get to them.
It really has, and that's something that's pretty unique to glyphosate. It has the use because of Roundup Ready crops. The use has just, exploded in the last 20 years, and we're using more of this than really we've used of any other herbicide in all of history. And that's why, it's so of such concern to so many different scientists, because it is so pervasive now and across our landscape. And that kind of, not coincidentally, I guess oddly, that was one thing the jurors were not really allowed to hear about. They were not allowed to hear about these genetically engineered crops that Monsanto introduced specifically to encourage the use of Roundup. That was something the judge agreed with Monsanto and said that they could exclude discussion of GMO crops from being introduced as evidence.
Yeah, Chuck said that he wasn't allowed to talk about GMOs. And I thought about I'm really glad that you said that, because I thought about it. And I think I understand what their motivation was. It was because GMOs are food. And this trial was about him using it on weeds. So they didn't want to bring together and connect the fact that what's on your food is also what's being used on weeds, because they know people out there don't know, and so this might help them connect the dots. And I think that they don't want people to realize that the same product is on all the food and in the food. So anyway,
well, Monsanto did file a motion before the Johnson trial seeking to have any mention of glyphosate residues on foods, any discussion of that, to be excluded from trial. It never really became an issue at trial. It wasn't something plaintiffs' attorneys were trying to introduce, but Monsanto did make it known that they didn't want anything like that to be talked about at the trial.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
Mm-hmm.
Then we start really thinking deep, And what I wanted to mention earlier too, that was so great about your book, everyone, that's Whitewash, that you can get it from Amazon. Read more about Carrie Gillum online and find her on Twitter. She's really active on there, and she's always keeping you up to date on the latest that's going on. So I really recommend you follow her on Twitter. Anyway, what was I going to say? Shoot, now I forgot. I threw all that stuff in there. Oh yeah, one of the things that you were really trying to do with your book was, first of all, to let people know that there's something out there that could possibly be an enemy that could hurt you. Because how can you protect yourself when you don't realize that you're under attack? That you don't realize that you're even being exposed to this stuff, which I feel is what they've been so successful at, is keeping everything a secret. They did that for years, where they really suppressed the media, the merchants of doubt, those people that manipulate the media, and just the whole history of how Mitt Romney and the firm that he was with took GMOs, which were not being accepted by the consumer and by farmers, and turned it into what they turned it into. This widely used product. I mean, I just think that's so amazing how that whole thing went down. And that some things had to be going on behind the scenes. With what we know, how did this product, because even in the 80s, we were seeing research that supported glyphosate as cancer-causing. So how did they manage to get this approved by the EPA for use on food? When it was, before that, it was like a cleaner of pipes, and it's an antibiotic. Here's all this stuff about glyphosate, but we were like, oh, this stuff causes cancer, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, it's okay to use it on food. So how does all that happen? Even when the evidence.
Gosh, you're going to have to read the book, because that's
that's in the book.
But yes, I mean, there was science
everyone.
Back in the 80s, that was showing that this looked like a possible carcinogen. The EPA scientists were saying it looks like a possible carcinogen. That certainly couldn't stand if it was going to be widely used on crops and used to desecrate things like wheat and oats and barley and things like that. So yeah, Monsanto worked very, very hard to overturn those very early EPA ideas about glyphosate. And even just as recently as in 2016, 2017, the EPA's Office of Research and Development said, if you look at the stuff, it looks like it still should be rated as maybe a possible carcinogen. Because there's enough evidence out there. Now, the larger health effects people at the EPA, the ones who actually are in charge of writing the reports, decided that they agreed with Monsanto, and they have classified it as not likely to cause cancer. So,
but aren't we
there's debate even within our own EPA about this.
But aren't people eating food with pesticides on it that we know cause cancer?
Well, on a regular basis, but the argument from industry and from our regulators has been that they're not at the levels that could actually be dangerous to you. So yes, we know that these pesticides, can be dangerous in certain doses or certain quantities, but the amount that's in your food is in no way harmful to you. That is what they will tell you. But again, like chlorpyrifos, that's what they told everyone about chlorpyrifos for a very long time, until they sort of said, oops, I guess not. I guess we were wrong. And that's where we are right now with chlorpyrifos, and that's what's happened with some other pesticides and chemicals as well. We're told they're safe until we're told they're not. So,
but isn't the new research that's coming out, because we have to realize that our ability to research these products has greatly advanced since they were first approved, and they go like 10, 15 years without even looking at them again, when all this new research could have happened that shows just how toxic it is. But I don't know if that starts to raise red flags and they take action before the end of the approved licensing of it in the United States. But it seems like we should be, using this new research. And from what I understand, the new research is showing that even small amounts, regular small amounts, can be way more lethal than we thought.
That's where a lot of the research is heading, certainly. And, our Linda Birnbaum with the National Toxicology Program has said as much, has said that the science is outpacing our regulatory structure. The science is so much more evolved now, and we need to be so much more concerned about things than our regulators are actually set up to address. And this is a problem with health policy in the country that, this is the argument she's been making, and she runs our National Toxicology Program, so it seems like, you might want to listen to what she says.
Yeah, that's what I would like, for us to really listen to the people that know and are trying to warn us on this. And another thing is that we don't like the product, the Roundup product. There's so many other chemicals in there. We've talked about this on the show, but we can't stress this enough. That you buy this product and people are just seeing the commercial with the guy spraying the dandelion, that evil dandelion that we must expose our family to this so we can kill it. But like looking at that product and really looking at it in a whole different way of what it truly is. And that is a combination of a bunch of chemicals that we don't even have a clue what they are, what happens when we mix them together, and just how toxic all these different products are in the beginning. We know, I feel like we know nothing about this. Am I wrong?
Well, we certainly are learning with respect to glyphosate-based herbicides that some of the surfactants, when combined with glyphosate, can be more toxic. That these formulations are more toxic than just
what is
glyphosate
that?
by itself.
What is a surfactant?
Well, a surfactant is a substance that's included in the formulation to help the active ingredient adhere to the leaf of a plant, for instance, in the case with Roundup, and to be absorbed into it. And studies that have been done around the world, including by our National Toxicology Program, have found that the formulations are more toxic than glyphosate by itself. So the Roundup or the Ranger Pro would be more toxic than just straight glyphosate. But of course, nobody uses straight glyphosate. It's always
I know. That's why we should be
formulation.
looking at the whole thing.
So, that's an issue that some people say is a major flaw in the regulatory structure. Monsanto and the regulators will tell you that it's not, that things are looked at individually, and that's an adequate and fine way to do things. So again, science is an evolving, institution, I guess, and an evolving animal, and it pays to pay attention. And I think that takes us back to the Johnson trial. They were looking at a lot of science, and this is the conclusion they came to, that these products, contributed to this man's what appears to be a fatal disease, or a terminal disease, I suppose. He's not dead yet. He's still chugging along. So, well, I need to chug along.
Okay,
actually.
well,
let's little children waiting for me.
Well, that's something we would never want to keep you from, and we appreciate your time today. And thank you so much, Carrie. And everyone, this is Carrie Gillum, the author of Whitewash. Please go check out her book and find out the true story on how this stuff ever got approved by our government, because I have a feeling it's pretty interesting, and it's in Carrie's book. Okay, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us, and hope you'll be back soon.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me tonight.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, everyone. Well, I did get a special request today to read a little something about Kavanaugh and my own personal history. I've had a lot of things happen to me personally that kind of injects a little bit of passion into this, although I would never claim to be any kind of expert on politics, although I got my opinions, okay, or, economic things or any of this. That's why I turn to the experts, okay? And that's what I'm doing today, because I really know nothing except my own personal experience here. And I actually found someone that agreed with me on one piece of the Dr. Ford information, where she said that she had shared this with a therapist back in 2012. And I thought, wow, this woman, must really have some sort of a special ability to see the future, to have conspired and planned all this time. So this author of 22 novels, and former chairman of Common Cause, a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. And so he said he's a New York Times bestselling author of 22 novels. He did the research, okay? He went out, he did the work, he went and followed all these leads about all these different people. And the reason that one piece of evidence was so important to me, it's actually documented, okay? This is not hearsay. This is documented by a therapist, a doctor in a therapy session. So this is real evidence, real facts, because it's a document, okay? And so that was one of the things that I thought made it a strong piece of evidence that we should take seriously. So he also agreed on that, but he did the research, and I'm going to read to you what he had to say about Kavanaugh. Okay, I hope everyone out there is interested to hear this. Okay, so I guess this was him saying after all the research. He says, so I guess I'm on my own. As a public service, I hereby render my best assessment of what Kavanaugh's defenders are really saying. Christine Baisley Ford is no mere academic. She's a keen observer of the judicial totem pole, bent on destroying innocent Republican aspirants to the Supreme Court. In 2012, she realized she once knew one guy among many who might actually get nominated to the bench, assuming a Republican got elected as president in 2016. That was kind of the kicker. Okay, that same year, with diabolical foresight, she commenced marriage counseling in order to plant an accusation against Kavanaugh during a therapy session, making it vivid enough that her therapist would write it down. Patiently, Blasley waited 6 more years for the dominoes to fall. First, the election of Trump. Second, after the detour of Gorsuch's ascension to the High Court, the nomination of Kavanaugh. The rest is history. Do we all feel better now? Okay. So, I thought he just did a really great job of what we're really saying here about Dr. Ford. And we have a little something, a little tribute to you, Kavanaugh. Go ahead and hit it, Nick. Yeah! That's for you, Kavanaugh, you virgin, you. Woo! Guess what? I was a virgin in high school, too. I'm admitting it. I never even got drunk. I was like that good, okay? I know it can be done. Okay, I'm saying that because I know it can be done, giving him, the benefit of the doubt there. Maybe that's true, and maybe that's why he was so desperate. I'm sorry. I guess I'm on the side of Dr. Ford. I just really don't see any reason for her to lie, and neither did Richard North Patterson. So I just want to thank him for writing that so I didn't have to think about all this stuff. And so that request for Kavanaugh to say something about Kavanaugh has been completed. And I hope you really enjoyed our talk with Carrie. And I got you thinking, because that's what I'm here for. I want to get you thinking. And please, everyone, if you haven't voted, if you haven't registered to vote, please register. And don't forget, anybody can use an absentee ballot. Okay? You don't have to be like leaving the country. You can just be absent from being able to go to the poll. I mean, not the poll, but the place where you go vote, right? So if you think that there's any chance that you might not be able to make it to the place to vote, then go online and you can fill out an absentee ballot application and you can vote even before the election. How about that? And you'll make sure that your vote gets counted. And that's what we want. That's our power, everyone. That's the power that we have. There's no reason to feel powerless when you have a vote that you can use to make this a better country. All right, everyone. This is Elaine McFadden at Smart Health Talk, and I really want to thank you for tuning in. And please check out our podcast on iHeartRadio and KCAARadio.com.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM.